All right, hello and welcome to this video. As you can see from the title, what we're going to be covering today is the ruthless path to focus. And as you can see from the overview, what we're going to be talking about more specifically is first the overview itself, the lie of balance, the reality of elimination, the addiction switch, the mechanics of focus, the sacred sacrifice, eliminating everything, the review, and your action items for the day or the next few days. So without further ado, let's get started and talk about the lie of balance. So balance is the polite word people use to explain why they're not going all in. It sounds noble, reasonable, even admirable. But if you're trying to build something extraordinary, something that tears through the fabric of average, balance isn't just a lie, it's a cage. You think you're being wise, but really you're just trying to avoid the discomfort of obsession. Balance is what they sell you when they don't want you to see how much of your life is bleeding out of you while you distract yourself. It's subtle, and that's the danger. You won't notice it killing you until you're too numb to care. And you'll start to feel like you're always busy but never really moving, like something deep is dying but you can't name what. That's the symptom. The disease is balance. The idea of a well-rounded life sounds sweet in theory, like a perfect circle, but the people who actually changed the world, the ones we quote, study, imitate, they weren't round. They were jagged, intense, uncontainable, firing on all cylinders. They gave things up, they disappointed people, they missed birthdays, ignored texts, skipped parties, and said no more than anyone else because they had something that mattered more than approval. And no, they weren't balanced. They were focused on themselves and their North Star, whatever that is. Balance is comforting. It lets you feel productive without actually threatening your sense of identity. And you can journal, meditate, hit inbox 0, and still be failing, but it doesn't feel like failure. It feels like self-care. That's why it's so dangerous. You'll rot and call it rest. Real growth lives at the edge of discomfort. When you're tired, when you're scared, when you feel like you're about to break, that's when it counts. Not when you're sipping tea in a perfect morning routine. Modern life is one long lullaby, and you're being lulled into sedation by Netflix, porn, healthy distractions, and even your to-do list. Everything is padded, everything is curated, sterilized, but you're not meant to be comfortable. You'll be clapped for playing it safe. You'll be praised for juggling it all, but the truth is the applause dies with them. Your life doesn't. You're the one who has to sit with what you didn't build. Things don't stay in place, not your focus, not your mind, not your purpose. Everything decays unless you fight for it. And obsession isn't optional, it's the only antidote to entropy. So take your eye off the mission and it will rust. Let one harmless thing in and it multiplies, and soon you're drowning in harmless things. When you try to balance everything, you become nothing. You split yourself into roles, the worker, the friend, the partner, the dreamer, until your soul is so scattered you forget what you're even fighting for. Each version of you wants something different. One wants to scroll, one wants to build, one wants validation, one wants solitude, and you really just want it to stop. You'll feel like you're leaking, like parts of you are everywhere except where you are. And that's what balance does. It fractures the self. Your life is going to end at some point, not in theory, in reality. There's a number on a clock right now ticking that marks the end of you, and you're still talking about work-life balance like you have time. You pretend you'll get serious later, that someday you'll go all in, but that someday is just a coping mechanism, a fable you use to justify procrastinating your real life. The question isn't whether the clock is ticking, it's whether you'll wake up before it runs out. And so you don't need anyone's approval to go all in. You don't need your mom to understand, and you don't need your friends to cheer. You just need to stop waiting for the moment when it all feels right, because it never will. Reclaim your right to be obsessed, to be extreme, to go too far, to choose something so fully that nothing else survives. That's where your freedom lives, not in balance. Balance asks you to negotiate with your ambition. Intensity tells you to punch a hole through the wall. You're not here to be reasonable. You're here to be undeniable. You need to build a wall around your purpose, not to keep the world out, but to keep yourself in, so you can't leave, so you can't escape. So it's either build or decay. Let it be a cage. Let it trap you with your own commitment. Because if you trap yourself with the right thing, you'll never need freedom again. When you let go of the idea that balance is noble, things shift, the fog clears, and it's not that you gain clarity, it's that you lose excuses. You finally see what needs to go, and then you start cutting. Real clarity doesn't feel good. It feels violent, like you're betraying the world, but you're not. You're finally actually choosing yourself. So kill the fantasy, kill the dream of doing it all. You don't need it all. You need the one thing that eats everything else. And if you're unsure what that is, if you're unsure what your current purpose is, then that purpose is you working on yourself. Once you accept that balance is a lie, you're ready for the truth. That elimination is the only way forward. You don't get focused by adding more. You get it by removing everything that doesn't belong. And that starts now. Let's talk about the reality of elimination. So elimination is pretty ugly. It's aggressive. It's uncomfortable. You're not tidying up your life. You're actually setting fire to the deadwood and standing in the smoke because you know deep down nothing grows in a crowded forest. People think focus is about what you do, but it's about what you're willing to stop doing forever with zero nostalgia and zero guilt. And the moment you even think about eliminating something, your brain probably throws a fit. Every excuse you've ever invented starts rushing in. But what if I need it later? But it's just for downtime. But I'll be missing out. That's your animal brain fighting for its drug. That resistance, that's the signal you're getting close to the real thing. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, you'd already be unstoppable. Most people never get past the excuses. They negotiate with themselves until nothing changes. They never taste the raw, terrifying freedom of actual elimination. You don't just reduce distractions. You kill them. You don't cut back. You cut off. Subtraction isn't a polite adjustment. It's a knife. And yes, sometimes you cut out things that you actually enjoy. That's the deal. If you want everything, you get nothing. If you want one thing, you get everything that comes with it. Throw your phone out of the room, not for a 30-minute focus block, for 12 hours, for days, until you feel that itch, that panic, and realize that your mind is scrambling for the dopamine you've been drip feeding it since 2006. Notice the urge to check it. That's the addiction talking. Sit there and let it ache. Every time you override that urge, your brain rewires, slowly at first. The high starts coming from progress, not notifications. So there are also people you love who are bad for you and your work. Family, friends, partners. If they're not aligned, they're weight around your ankles. Love them from a distance or risk drowning with them. You will feel like a traitor, and they'll most likely guilt trip you. And it hurts, but it's better than hating yourself for what you didn't build. Don't expect applause. Expect resistance, anger, confusion. That's how you know you're not just rearranging your comfort zone, you're actually destroying it. And this isn't about a dopamine detox. This isn't a challenge or a 7-day experiment. This is permanent. It's ruthless. You quit letting yourself get away with it. No more just this once. No more I deserve a break. The more brutal you are, the faster it gets quiet in your head. Every harmless habit is a pipeline to mediocrity. Junk food, background music, idle scrolling, gossip. They sound innocent, but they're not. They're termites. And if you leave them alone long enough, you'll wake up one morning wondering why you don't feel alive anymore. But I need some time. I need some relaxation. I need some downtime. No, you need progress. You need momentum. Once you taste that, everything else tastes like ash. Replace escape with action and you'll see. The first week feels like hell, and the second week you start laughing at how long you settled for scraps. The game isn't what can I get away with keeping. The game is what am I willing to sacrifice for what I want. That's the real test. People talk about boundaries, but forget boundaries. Build walls, build moats, set traps for your old self. Anything else, anything less, and you're negotiating with your own sabotage. Every object in your space is either pulling you to work or pulling you to decay. Go through your room, your phone, your calendar. If it doesn't directly serve your mission, out. No debate, no mercy. Make elimination a ritual, not a one-time event. Once a month, burn the excess. Watch how clear your head gets, how sharp your instinct becomes. Let it be dramatic. Turn it into a ceremony if you have to. Make it memorable so you remember how it felt to be lighter. It's going to suck. You'll feel lonely. You'll most likely feel bored and anxious. You'll miss things you didn't even like that much. That's the withdrawal. That's proof you're doing it right. Addiction isn't just to substances. It's to attention, stimulation, validation, and noise. Eventually, the silence sets in. At first, it's terrifying. Then, it's a gift. In that silence, you'll finally hear what your work actually sounds like. Most people never hear it. Their whole life is static. You're not most people. Sit in the quiet. Let your mind scream. Then let it break. When it does, you'll feel a rush of power you didn't know you had. It's all the energy you used to waste, finally coming home. Be the villain in your own story if that's what it takes. Cut, slash, burn, and don't apologize. The more you defend your boundaries, the less you'll have to. Your results will speak for themselves even if your friends stop calling. And people will most likely judge you, and they will say you've changed. Let them. Change so much you're unrecognizable to the version of you who wasted time. The ones who get it stay, the rest drift away. Let them. There is a reason most people never escape. Set a standard so high that only the extraordinary survive inside it, including you. Let go of the idea that you need permission to eliminate anything. Your life is your responsibility, and so is your focus. No one is going to protect it for you. No one is going to come to save you. Own your choices, own your results. If you're not proud of your work, it's not because you did too much, it's because you let too much live. Filter your world through one question. Does this make me better or weaker? If weaker, cut it. No debate, no guilt. Does this add to my mission or does it take away from it? Does this bring me one step closer or one step backwards? That's where real freedom starts, when nothing unnecessary has access to your mind, your time, and your space. At first, elimination feels like punishment, but soon it flips. You start feeling hungry again. Your attention stretches out, sharp, predatory, seeking challenge, work, impact, and the world shrinks. The mission grows and you stop missing the old hits. You start needing the work, and eventually even your distractions become tools. The urge to escape turns into the urge to build, and that's when you know you're in the deep. This is how you get addicted to the right thing, not by discipline, but by starvation of everything else. The work starts to call you and you start craving it. You miss it when you're not in it, and that's when you know you've crossed over. And most people never try this. They dance around the edges, they declutter, they detox, they take breaks. But if you go all the way, you'll notice something terrifying and beautiful. There's nothing left but you and the work, and all the space you cleared out fills up with energy, focus, and a strange kind of joy. The world goes quiet and the work becomes the only thing that matters. And for the first time in your life, you don't want to escape. You actually want more. So next, you're going to see what happens when the only hit left is the work itself, and why it's the greatest addiction you'll ever have. Let's talk about the addiction switch. So let's rip the band-aid off. Most people don't want to get rid of their addictions because deep down they're terrified there's nothing good on the other side. They've built their whole emotional economy around little dopamine payouts. The phone, the snacks, the Netflix, the scrolling, the swiping, the fake urgency, the background chatter. But here's the truth. If you eliminate everything else, all that restless, desperate, hungry energy has nowhere to go except the one thing you didn't cut, the work. And this is not some motivational tactic. This is basic chemistry. You're not becoming less addicted. You're just swapping suppliers. When you take away every other dopamine hit, the brain doesn't stop wanting dopamine. It just goes hunting. That's why the work starts to call you. The same itch that used to make you check Instagram for the 20th time before breakfast starts dragging you back to the task at hand. It's the same mechanism, but now you're the dealer and the addict, and the drug is your own output. For the first time, doing hard things starts to feel like relief. You sit down and instead of anxiety, you feel a weird sense of comfort. You feel that little hit, that little surge. And no, it's not the pure rush you get from junk food or social approval, but it's real and it builds and it's self-reinforcing. At first, you'll feel the withdrawal. Your brain screams for the old stuff, but as the days pass, it starts to recalibrate. The act of finishing something, building something, moving the needle, it becomes the only place you get your high. And the pride of seeing what you build, what you endured, and what you kept at begins to compete with the quick hits. You start to crave it. Not the distractions, not the shallow validation, but the feeling of being locked in. Hours go by and you forget to eat. You resent interruptions. People start asking if you're okay, and you're more than okay. You're hooked. You finish a big piece of work and you get that hit, not as the same as the old stuff, but deeper, heavier, and you want it again. So you start chasing harder problems, higher stakes, deeper focus. Just like any other addiction, tolerance builds and you need bigger challenges, more complex puzzles, a higher level of risk. And soon you become addicted not just to the work, but to improvement itself. You start looking for anything and anyone that can make you better, stronger, faster. And yes, that's a reference. And this is where things get dangerous. When the work becomes your only high, you become the kind of person who can't live any other way. You lose patience for the mundane, the trivial, the small talk, and people see you changing and they don't like it, but you can't go back. Sometimes you'll be alone, most times in fact. Sometimes you'll feel like a freak. You'll get accused of being too much. You'll be told to chill out, ignore it all. Suddenly, you recognize others like you, the real ones, the ones who look hungry all the time, even if they're rich or miles ahead of you in any other domain of life. These are your people now. They get it. They don't ask you to explain the obsession. They just nod and go back to building. And here's the crazy thing. The more you work, the more reward you get, not from outside, but from within. It's an addiction loop you built for yourself and you control the lever. You stop needing validation and you stop counting likes, followers, and applause. Your reward mechanism gets internalized. And it's not that you become a monk or a stoic, you just become detached from the outcome, from the external. You realize you can manufacture your own joy, your own purpose on demand because you become the purpose. Your reward mechanism is internalized. For example, I was creating these videos way before the subscribers, views, comments, and likes, and you can see some remnants of this on my own channel. Life shrinks and gets heavier, denser. Every move matters. Every minute is spent buying the next high. And sometimes you go too far. You work until your body aches, your brain buzzes, your vision blurs, and you're playing with fire and you know it, and you crash. But even in the exhaustion, just like a heavy workout, there's a twisted satisfaction. You spent it all on something real, not on killing time. And sleep hits different. Food tastes better. Rest actually feels like rest. And there's no guilt, no shame, no sense of wasting the day. You remember what it used to feel like, the emptiness after a binge, the anxiety after too many hours of numbing yourself. Now, the only time you feel anxious is when you're not building. And you have to pull yourself back, not force yourself forward. And now, you're living where most people are terrified to go. You're right at the edge of your ability, constantly leveling up, constantly testing your own limits. And it's risky, and it's lonely, it's sometimes brutal, but it feels alive. You realize you can't coast, not for long, because the machine you built needs fuel, and the only fuel it takes is sweat, thought, and focus. And that scares people. They see the consequences. They see how much you had to burn to get here. But to you, it doesn't even feel like sacrifice anymore. It feels like life. And here's where the magic happens. You wake up and your first thought is the work, whatever that is for you. Not your phone, not notifications, not some distraction. The urge to do the hard thing becomes a reflex, and you feel antsy when you're away from it too long, like an addict separated from his fix. That's how you know you made it. The world can offer you every shiny object, every cheap thrill, and you'll just shrug and go back to building. You built an immune system, not from discipline, but from pure necessity. Now you have proof. If you can get addicted to this, you can get addicted to anything. So you pick wisely. And here's the last piece. You can't fake this. You can't hack your way here with willpower alone. You have to really ask yourself what you want, and you have to get even more real about what you're willing to burn to get it. And it's ugly sometimes, it's beautiful sometimes, but it's always worth it. You look back one day and your only regret is not starting sooner. Because now the next step isn't about finding more ways to work, it's about finding out how deep you can go, how far you can push, how much more you can build when nothing else is left. All of this brings you face to face with the actual mechanics of focus. The nuts and the bolts, the routines, the ugly little truths about how people who actually win keep their eyes locked on what matters. And that's what's next. So let's talk about the mechanics of focus. So focus isn't sexy. It isn't complicated either. It's raw, boring repetition. The best keep their process disgustingly simple because it works. Every distraction you eliminate just makes the simplicity sharper and more brutal. And there's nowhere left to hide from yourself. There's no trick. You just do the work over and over like a farmer planting rows in a hard earth. If you don't have a ritual, you're winging it. And that's fine, until your brain revolts. The workday starts, you hesitate, you check your phone, you lose the first 10 minutes, and it spirals. Ritual isn't a routine. It's an exorcism. You build a little doorway between the chaos and the mission. Your workspace becomes sacred. The mug, the notepad, the closed door, the same 3 songs. They're not quirks, they're weapons. And your body and mind learn, when this ritual starts, everything else dies and you step into the arena, not the playground. The world rewards split attention, apps, pings, urgent tasks, but if you want depth, you've got to get savage about your boundaries. You say no to everything, sometimes even good things, and you become hard to reach. You piss people off. You go off the grid for days, sometimes weeks, and the less you explain, the better. Your no becomes a shield, not out of anger, out of necessity, because every yes is a slice off your lifespan. So guard your calendar like your life depends on it, because it does. You don't have to announce your absence. You just disappear into the work and let your results do the talking. Focus is a momentum game. You're either climbing the hill or you're rolling back down. At the start, it takes everything just to sit still and not self-destruct. The second week is hell. The third week, the hill gets a little less steep. And by the end of the month, you start running up it. Every hour compounds. 1 clear hour today is 10 tomorrow. Clarity and momentum multiply. Don't try to fix 10 things at once. Fix one. Protect one block of time. And when you see what it does, you'll feel like hell to protect more. Order matters as well. Put the hardest thing first. Every day, you will hate it and do it anyway. Your entire life will start to bend around that habit. And real focus is quiet. No music, no news, no stimulation, no open tabs. Just you, the page, the code, the numbers, the plan. The more silence you can stomach, the deeper you'll go. And at first, the silence will make you squirm. Later, you'll crave it. The first few sessions feel like hell. You'll check the clock every 2 minutes. Your skin will itch for distraction. But if you can last, the noise starts to drop out. There's a moment, usually 30, sometimes 45 minutes in, where everything in your head shuts up. That's the beginning. Stay there. When you break through, you can work for hours, not because of discipline, but because nothing is pulling at you anymore. And don't pretend you can discipline your environment. Your willpower is overrated. Put yourself in a cell if you have to. Delete every shortcut. Leave your phone at home. Work at a library, a closet, a boring white room. Whatever you have to do, do it. Set traps for your future self. Hide your distractions and make it harder to lose. Build friction into escape routes. The night before, get everything ready. Put the hard thing on top of your pile so it's the first thing you see. Make it impossible to do anything else but the work. If you don't, you'll always default to comfort. People think focus is about sprinting, but it's not. It's a marathon, but with fire at your heels. You can't run at top speed forever, but you can always move forward. You train yourself to keep showing up, even when you're tired, bored, sick, or doubting. Real discipline is about rhythm, not force. The better you get, the more you can coast on habit. You do it even when you don't feel like it, and especially then. A bad day, you show up anyway. That's the difference between pros and tourists. Eventually, focus becomes less about technique and more about obsession. You start needing the work to feel okay. You start organizing your whole life around your next block of uninterrupted hours. And people see it. They call you rigid, extreme, unhealthy, and they're right. The price of this level of focus is real. You lose touch with the most of the world and you start craving only what feeds the work. It's a lonely currency, but the returns are insane. You go deeper than anyone you know, and most people never even see what's down there. If you do it long enough, focus becomes automatic. You build triggers, you build habits, anchors so strong they override distraction. It doesn't mean you're immune to it. It means your defaults serve you instead of destroy you. Build systems that make distraction harder than action. That's the game. Have backups. If your main environment gets corrupted, have a secondary ready. And life will try to derail you. You stay one step ahead, always ready to reset. And regularly audit your focus. Where did you slip? Where did you hold the line? Don't wait for things to break before you adjust. Treat your attention like an athlete treats performance. Track it, test it, and tweak it constantly. Weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever works. Review yourself. You have to know your numbers. And be honest, if you're slipping, own it. Don't let your ego kill your progress. The best never drift far. They spot course corrections early and make them instantly. This is yours. Nobody else is coming to rescue your focus, protect your hours, or hold you accountable. If you don't defend it, you lose it forever. You decide every morning what matters, not once, every single day. The commitment is new. Some days you'll barely make it. Some days you'll crush. Doesn't matter. You get up and do it again, regardless. At the end, the results are yours alone, and that's the whole point. And there's one more layer. The places in your life you didn't even realize you need to cut. The hidden leeches, the silent killers of your focus and momentum. Let's shine a light on every dark corner and finally decide what stays and what goes. So let's talk about the sacred sacrifice. So here's the part nobody warns you about. You want insane focus, unbreakable drive, obsession level results. The price isn't paid in more effort. It's paid in letting go of comfort, distraction, and sometimes the people who once made you feel safe. This is the part that feels unfair, but it's also the doorway to power. You don't get to keep everything and ascend. That's not how life works. The universe doesn't care what you kinda want. It only responds to sacrifice. That means putting real skin in the game, throwing things on the fire that you actually like, giving up things you used to brag about. If it doesn't hurt a little, it doesn't count. You can't move forward dragging your old self behind you. You have to burn the bridge and throw away the map. Most people quit here because nostalgia feels safer than becoming someone new. If you're not losing things, you're not changing. Losing can feel like dying, and that's good. That's how you know it's real. Sacrifice is lonely. You'll watch other people hanging out, taking breaks, relaxing in ways that feel toxic to you now. Or maybe you still want to relax in those ways. They'll invite you, they'll wonder why you're so serious or so busy. They'll get offended. Some will drift away and you'll wonder if it's worth it. But loneliness is a signal, not a stop sign. It means you're on a path most won't choose. Sometimes you'll feel like an alien in your own life. You'll speak a language nobody around you understands. And that's okay, because real growth is always solitary, at least for a while. You stop trying to explain yourself, you stop looking for applause, and the only person you have to impress is the future you, or even the younger you. Eventually, you learn to enjoy the solitude. It's where you do your best work, where you meet the part of yourself that's been buried under all the noise. Every sacrifice takes away the person you used to be, and you give up a version of yourself for something unknown. The world will try to pull you back to normal, but you know too much now. You've seen what focus makes possible, and you can't unsee it. There's a real sense of loss. Sometimes you'll actually mourn your old life. The routines, the ease, the company, but you can't wear the same skin and hope to grow. Treat it like a ritual. Name what you're letting go of and say goodbye. Thank it for getting you here, and then shut the door and leave it behind. Like Seneca said, every new beginning comes from another beginning's end. The new you doesn't need the old crutches. You will be afraid of missing out, of being alone, of betting everything on a single path, and maybe watching it collapse. But here's the secret. Fear is a sign you're not lying to yourself anymore. Most people use distractions to run from fear. You use sacrifice to walk straight into it. Fear is the tax on ambition. If you don't feel it, you're not risking enough. Fear is the proof of progress. Comfort is proof of stagnation. Every time you walk through fear, your capacity grows, and the path gets a little wider. So get used to it. When you choose sacrifice, you will outgrow people. They will resent you for it, and your priorities will become a mirror for their compromises. That hurts. Some will try to drag you back down, to keep you in the old dance. Don't. They will talk, they will label you obsessed, selfish, antisocial, arrogant. Let them. There is no need to defend yourself to the mediocre. You answer to the work, not to the crowd. They'll understand when they see your results, or they never will. Either way, you keep going. There's a strange thing that happens after a while. The pain of sacrifice fades and gets replaced by a weird kind of pleasure. You start to crave the feeling of moving forward. The struggle becomes addictive, and you realize you don't even want the distractions anymore. You want the hit of hard-earned progress. And sacrifice itself becomes a source of joy. You learn to savor this thing because you know what it's buying you. And you stop chasing empty highs. The work becomes its own reward. All the things you gave up feel small compared to what you gain. Sacrifice gives your life weight. It makes things matter. It's the difference between floating and carving a canyon with your bare hands. The deeper you cut, the more the world starts to open up for you. Meaning isn't found, it's earned. And the only lives worth remembering are the ones that left something behind. And sacrifice is the cost of making a dent in reality. When you pour yourself out for something bigger, the work echoes after you. There's nothing empty about giving it all. Emptiness is for those who never risked. And you'll see that with each thing you give up, you'll see sharper. All the noise, all the options, they melt away. The path in front of you gets unmistakably clear, and you know what matters, and you're finally free to chase it with everything you've got. Focus isn't an accident, it's a reward for sacrifice. The world shrinks, your mission grows, and you're no longer paralyzed by choices. The work becomes obvious. Ironically, you become the most free when you give up the things you thought you needed. And here's where everything clicks. When you sacrifice the things that don't fit, life stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling like alignment. Like all the parts of you are finally moving in the same direction. The old version of you would have called this hard. Now, it just feels right. The sacrifices don't feel like sacrifices anymore. They feel like gravity pulling you. The sacrifices don't feel like sacrifices anymore. They feel like gravity pulling you forward. And you wake up wanting to do the hard thing because it's the only thing that makes sense. You stop doubting yourself because your actions prove your commitment every day. And the closer you get to living in pure sacrifice, the more inevitable progress becomes. There's less friction, less wasted motion, less inner conflict. You just move, and every move pulls you further from the average, deeper into mastery. And you stop comparing, you stop craving what others have, and you don't even see them anymore. You realize you're finally living your own life, not the one handed to you by others. Your home in the work, in the path, in the discipline you built for yourself. Everything after this gets easier, not because the world changes, but because you've changed. Sacrifice becomes instinct. Distraction loses its teeth. Every day you show up, you're reminded what matters. You know in your bones what you're willing to burn to keep going. And there's only one thing left now, to get so methodical, so ruthless, that you eliminate every single hidden drain, every leech, every micro distraction still left in your ecosystem. Because after sacrifice, the only thing that matters is the final audit and the freedom that comes after that. So let's talk about eliminating everything and how to do that. Most people never even bother to look at what's stealing their focus. And they know about the obvious stuff like Instagram notifications, endless group chats, but they don't see the hidden leeches, the tiny invisible hooks pulling at them from every direction, draining energy drop by drop. And this is the part that nobody wants to do because it's brutal. But if you skip it, you're guaranteeing your own failure. You don't just eliminate distractions, you have to hunt them continuously. So start with your physical space, your room, your desk, your kitchen, your phone. Every object, every item is a trigger for a habit. If it doesn't directly contribute to the work, it's a liability. A cluttered room is a cluttered mind. And that cliche is real. Get everything out that doesn't need to be there. Now look at your digital world, social, email, browser tabs, streaming subscriptions. These are casinos disguised as productivity tools. Every notification is a slot machine lever. Pull enough times and you're broke before lunch. Even productive apps can become black holes. Task managers, project boards, endless note-taking systems. If you're not careful, they're just another flavor of avoidance. And some people energize you, but most don't. And that's the reality of it. Audit your relationships with the same cold eye you use on your apps. If they drain you, they don't belong in your day-to-day orbit. You don't need enemies, just people who waste your time, doubt your mission, or keep you stuck in old patterns. Yes, even family, sometimes especially family. So set boundaries so hard they feel like a punch. If someone's love comes with a side of sabotage, distance is mercy. And you'll lose friends, guaranteed, but the ones who remain after you level up are worth 10 times than the ones you outgrow. Now, the next part is habits, and this is the dark basement where you find the real monsters. Food, sleep, caffeine, corn, weed, alcohol. Just one episode. Every micro addiction robs your next hour of its bite. Garbage food, garbage brain. Don't try to run your mind on low-grade fuel and expect brilliance. And if you want superhuman focus, protect your sleep like a psycho. If your sleep is trash, you're trash the next day. Anything you use to feel just a bit better is probably the enemy. Dopamine wants you chasing, not creating. Now, the next part would be media. Be ruthless with media. Most media is engineered to hook you, keep you passive, and fill your mind with someone else's garbage. News, YouTube, podcasts, TikTok, 99% of it is noise. More is not better. More is more distraction. Learn just enough to take action. You can binge read all the business books in the world and stay broke. You need to implement ruthlessly. Now, the next one would be noise, literal noise. Music, city sounds, background TV. I like to imagine that every time my brain splits attention, I lose IQ points. You don't need a soundtrack for your life. Silence is where work compounds. So try working in total silence for a week and see how it makes you feel. Now, the next one would be micro commitments. And those are all those little shoulds and maybes, the coffee catch-ups, the favors, the maybe later projects, the online shopping carts. Every open loop is a background process burning RAM. If it's not a hell yes, kill it. Most maybes are just someone else's priorities sneaking into your life. Your inbox is a graveyard of other people's dreams. You are not a professional replier. Unsubscribe from anything you haven't read in a month. Now, the next one would be mental loops, old regrets, grudges, anxieties, hypothetical arguments in the shower. Mental clutter is still clutter. So you don't get bonus points for worrying. Dump your brain onto paper every morning and get it all out so that there's room for the real work. Now, the next one would be physical health. If your body is weak, everything is harder. Your body is a physical representation of your mind, and weak bodies create weak focus. Strengthen yourself and suddenly the mental game is easier to win. Train every day, even if it's 5 push-ups or just taking a walk. And keep in mind, Pain isn't an excuse, it's a warning sign. If something hurts, you need to fix it. Don't limp along for years thinking that you're tough. Now, the next thing you should focus on is energy. What gives you energy? What drains your energy? Most people have no clue because they're so numbed by the baseline of exhaustion. So start tracking what makes you feel clear versus what makes you feel hungover. Try logging your energy through the day and try to notice the patterns. That's where the clues hide. There are certain things in your day that are most likely robbing you of your energy or giving you energy. You need to notice what those are and write them down and actually track your day. Now, if you find yourself crashing at the same time every day, you need to change something, most likely. You need to look at your food, sleep, the drinks you're having, the people around you, the tasks you're doing. Stop living in autopilot and actually try to notice these things. And you need a vision so big it scorches your excuses. If your dream doesn't terrify you and scare off the weak, it's not big enough to pull you through the sacrifice. So don't shrink your dream to fit your distractions. Rather, try to shrink your distractions to fit your dream. Your dream is the only thing that actually deserves your obsession and all your attention. Everything else is noise. And there's a feeling when you finish this audit, and it's unlike anything else. Your life gets smaller, but the energy inside of it explodes. You start to see with clarity so sharp it hurts, and you know exactly what to cut and exactly why. And there's no going back to how you lived before, not because you're better, but because you're finally being honest. And now you can actually face the real price, the cost of sacrifice, and what you'll give up to truly win. With that being said, let's go over the review. We went over the overview. We talked about the lie of balance, the reality of elimination, the addiction switch, the mechanics of focus, the sacred sacrifice, eliminating everything, and finally, the review and your action items for the day or the next few days. First, make a brutally honest list of every distraction, addiction, or low-value commitment in your environment, routine, and relationships. And don't sugarcoat or justify. If it doesn't directly feed your mission, it's on the chopping block. Then cut, block, cancel, or distance yourself from at least 3 things on your list this week, or at least this month, and make it dramatic. The more it hurts, the more it's costing you. You're building evidence that you can survive without it. Then finally, channel the freed up energy into your highest leverage work immediately. Don't wait for motivation. Sit with the discomfort, redirect the urge, and build the habit of getting your hit from progress instead of distraction. With that being said, I hope this brought a lot of value. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to let me know in the comments. Join the free community from the first link below, and if you want to work with me, make sure to book a call with me from the second link in the description. With that being said, thank you for being here, and I'm going to see you in the next one.